Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today we continue with our financial saga of those who are retired or nearing retirement, attempting to figure out when to do certain things and when to make financial decisions about retirement. As we get ready to cover part 4 of our series, it's not a matter of if, but when. But if you thought I was going to get started without introducing America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, you were incorrect. So good morning, Aaron, on this January 17th, 2023. How you doing?
Good morning to you, sir. I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm doing really well. Yeah, it's actually been our business. It was funny. We took off quite a bit, with the holidays and everything. And obviously, a lot of people had things going on, but and it got a little slow right in there. I said, man, we're not getting many calls or anything. And I guess people just wanted time off, and we let people off in the office, obviously. But as soon as we started back, it was like the day after New Year's, boom. And I don't know, I started... Maybe
that's a New Year's resolution for people, is to get in and see somebody about this money. I don't know.
Well, I think you might be right. And I think what it is, Aaron, now this is just theory. I haven't polled people as they've come in to see us. But, Christmas break, New Year's, kind of gave everybody a time just to kind of forget about things. And I think the reality is the key word, and we're using this in our advertising a lot, is this word uncertainty. And I think what's happening is people, you get through the holidays, you have a little fun, and all of a sudden you're back to the real world, and it's like, these are some really uncertain times. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
So I think what people realize, at Tony Walker Financial, in case you're just new to listening to our program, I know we have a lot of new stations out there. I've been on TV and radio for nearly 30 years. I've been in the business for almost 40 years. So if you've never heard of Tony Walker Financial, I think one reason a lot of people contact us is they understand that our job is to help savers worry less about money. And one way we do that is trying to remove things that create uncertainty. So, folks, that's why we call it the Worry-Free Retirement. The reason I think many people worry about retirement or worry in retirement is, number one, they don't have a game plan. They don't have a fiduciary. They don't have anything that they can look at or go to, Aaron, that says, I know what this is, and this looks like it's going to be very predictable for me in retirement. Think about it, Aaron. If all you have is a bunch of stock brokerage statements or some annuities you didn't understand, you don't know how long you're going to live, you don't have a written game plan, wouldn't you think you'd worry a little bit because of an uncertain future?
Absolutely.
Makes sense? Okay. So what we've been covering, folks, and this is part 4, this is the last show that we're going to have on this particular topic. It's called It's Not a Matter of If, But When. So for those of you just now joining us, let me repeat the first 6. We're going to cover the last 2 wins on today's show. So let's go over those. The first win that I see in retirement planning that comes up all the time is people asking me, Tony, when do I take Social Security? That's a biggie. The next one is, when is one supposed to roll over their 401k plan to somebody like us who is an independent fiduciary? Number 3, the next when is when to deal with that tax-infested 401k, something I call the tax tumor. Number 4 is when to start taking less risk. 5, we covered last week, when to start spending your money before it's too late. Number 6, when to seek a retirement planning specialist such as Tony Walker Financial. And our last 2, one of my favorites, 7 is when to purchase an annuity. Again, this is if you're a saver, right? This show's dedicated to savers. And finally, this probably affects everybody at some point. Number 8, when to admit you're not going to live forever. So, Aaron, I know, again, you're in your early 40s. Probably retirement planning is not that pressing. You're trying to raise kids and just do life and get by, make sure Jessica's got that new gas stove cranked up. Anyway, out of those 8, when to take Social Security, 401k rollover, tax tumor, taking less risk, spending less money, getting a retirement planning specialist, purchasing an annuity, and admitting you're not going to live forever, is there a couple at your age that pop off that list to you?
Yeah, I would say, honestly, the 2 that really stick out to me are, I think it's number 3, when to start dealing with that tax tumor. And then the last one that we're going to talk about today is, not knowing when you're going to,
say it.
This is when you're going to die, when you're going to die, when you're going to pass on, when you're going to go to the farm. When I was growing up, all of our cats went to the farm. You know what I mean? So, I'm picturing this farm with, 800 cats in it, or whatever. But yeah, I'll just give an example of the tax tumor. It's really easy to put that off because you immediately start thinking about, well, I got all this stuff right now. I need a new car, or I'll just give you a personal example. Tony, we homeschool. Well, our kids are homeschooled, and there's a lot of misconceptions about homeschooling, and one of them is that it's just free to do. It is not free to do. We have to buy our own books, our own curriculum, all that stuff. And on top of that, I live in Jefferson County. I'm still paying a tax for the public school system, but none of my kids are in the school system. Does all that make,
Yeah.
So it's easy to really start thinking about, well, I'm not going to deal with that tax tumor right now. I got more pressing things that I've got to deal with.
That's perfect. Now, I would say I'm kind of surprised out of the first one on the list, because of your age, when to take Social Security, given what you just talked about with kids and trying to save money. That's not on your list, when to take Social Security?
No, it is not. And folks, hear me. You're going to hear this show on March 2nd, 2023. I'm proclaiming it right now. I'm not worried about Social Security because I'm not going to get Social Security. I don't even think about stuff like that. That's like saying, well, I don't worry about unicorns. Well, because I'm never going to have one.
Oh, speaking of unicorns, my granddaughter, Scout, she wants to see a unicorn one day.
She wants to see one?
Maybe there's a unicorn
Derek's
farm.
pretty good at graphics. He could probably make that happen.
Yeah, Derek, why don't you do something productive and create a unicorn farm or something, dude?
Just glue on a horse. There you go. That's real easy.
You ought to come up with a graphic. Just stick it real tacky like a horn sticking out. I can show it to Scout.
Duct tape on this horse.
All right, folks. So let's get back to the serious. Okay, number 7. Let's go over number 7. This is our first. This is probably my favorite. As many of you know that watch the show, in fact, I've spoken at conferences all over the country. I've been asked to speak on annuities. Kiddingly, I've had people call me the annuity king because I've done so many annuities. I think we're well over $500 million of premium in annuities. I love annuities. Okay. Now I'm an investment advisor. I'm a fiduciary. We do investments through Charles Schwab. We've got over 2,000 accounts now with Charles Schwab, almost nearly 200 million with Schwab. So it's not that I'm just going to sell annuities, but I really love these products. And if you're a saver, one of the questions should be, it's going to have to come up at some point, assuming you're wanting guarantees, assuming you don't want to run out of money, you're going to have to look at an annuity. The problem is there are so many people selling annuities. You know why that is, Aaron?
Why is that?
It's easy to sell annuities. All you got to do to sell an annuity legally is have an insurance license, which takes about 6 weeks to procure. And you, Aaron, could get a license and you could go out and sell the same annuities that are available to somebody like myself that's done this almost 40 years and written thousands of them. Pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little scary to
think about
scary.
That. So what I wanted to do, the first thing I want to do, I want to make sure everybody understands there's basically 3 types of annuities out there. We represent all these. Now, by the way, we don't do variable annuities. If you hear the term variable, those are the ones that do have some risk and very high fees. That's why we don't like them, just because mainly they're fees. So there's basically, in the fixed annuity world, which is what we sell, there are short-term accumulation products, which means that you can get out of those without a penalty in less than 5 years. That's the definition of short-term accumulation. There's long-term accumulation annuities, which generally can pay a lot more, but your money is going to be penalized for a longer period of time if you surrender the annuity. Generally, between 5 and 10 years, there's a larger penalty, okay? And then finally, the one we'll talk about right now is something called an income annuity. Income annuities are those annuities that provide my beloved
mailbox money.
So let's go over the final one that I just mentioned, an income annuity, because there's a lot of confusion on this. Here's a current client that recently tapped into their income annuity and began what I call the mailbox money. Now, again, folks, I know you can't see through the magic of radio, so I'm just going to read a few things. What I would really encourage you to do, we're going to cover this on our television show, The Worry-Free Retirement. You're going to be able to see this graphic. If you can't, by the way, you can catch one of our shows. We're on 7 different stations now, I think,
stations,
Aaron, in Bowling Green, Louisville, and Lexington. If you want to find out the TV shows, all you got to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You'll see a listing of all the TV shows and radio shows, but the TV shows particularly because you're going to be able to see the better graphics that Derek Hudson, our graphics guy, is putting together right now as we speak. But in essence, this particular contract, person put in $178,000. This was several years ago. And the income account value, all right, was growing back then. It still is at 8%. I have this same contract. And you say, wait a minute, Tony. Where in the world can you get 8%? Right now they're about 7%. Well, you're going to find out in a minute. This large rate of return offered by an income annuity is not something that can be compared to a CD or other investments. It's a calculation or an accounting number. So what I'm saying is they take the 178, compound that at 8% every year until you decide to draw your mailbox money, and at that point, it stops growing, the income account. So in this example, Aaron, this gentleman had this several years. He actually started his income. Right now he's in his early 70s. So this annuity is going to pay him, just focus on this part, Aaron, based on that $301,000. That's what the income value has now grown to. He wants his income now. It's going to pay him $19,240. He could take it monthly, but this is annually, $19,247 a year for the rest of his life. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
So think about that.
Okay.
So if you're planning for retirement now, let's go back in time when this gentleman bought this. He was around 60 when he bought it. And you put in a lump sum amount of money with an insurance company, that's who writes annuities, and you know that down the road, it's at a certain age, whatever age you want to pick, you can look at that age and pick that at, in this case, he chose it this year, and look at a piece of paper, this is back to creating certainty, right? And go, if I start my income right there, that's my guaranteed income for life. How worry-free is that? It's pretty cool, isn't it?
That's very worry-free. To know a guarantee like that, sure.
So you say, well, Tony, what happens though? If this gentleman starts taking that, what happens if he were to die the next day? Well, that's a really good question. Now, he could elect to take a joint income for his spouse. It'd be a little less than this. That way, if he were to die first, then she would get it for the rest of her life. Or there's something called a contract value. Now, this contract value, quite frankly, has not grown a lot. It's done okay. It's grown a little bit, but that contract value is what's called the death benefit. Again, folks, this is why you're going to want to watch the TV show. Or, Aaron, I tell you what they could do if they can't catch a TV show. Those TV shows are on YouTube. Tell the folks how they can go watch past episodes of the TV show.
Real simple, folks. All you got to do is go to youtube.com. That's youtube.com. And when you get there, type in the search bar, Tony Walker Financial, and you'll see Tony's smiling face right there. You're going to find not only past episodes, you're going to find all kinds of video content.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. So that's how an income annuity works. Remember, an income annuity out of those 3, short-term accumulation, long-term accumulation, and income annuities, is meant to provide mailbox money, which this gentleman just turned his income on, and he'll get that for the rest of his life. Now, when we come back, an interesting scenario here. With more and more people peddling annuities, I mean, it's crazy the number of people out there now selling annuities. And many of these people, folks, are not fiduciaries. They're not required to work in your best interest by law, which we are. I'm going to share with you an example of somebody that came to me and what an annuity peddler expected them to do with their life savings. Pretty scary stuff. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Shannon Ross, and I'm the Investment Services Coordinator for Tony Walker Financial, which means I take care of all the brokerage accounts for our firm. In an ongoing effort to develop and use innovative and efficient tools to better serve clients, a recent partnership with DocuSign was established. This gives clients a safe, convenient method to complete many documents needed for account establishment or maintenance electronically. Not only does it reduce the potential security risk of information being sent by postal mail, it also makes paperwork completion and processing much quicker for you. The process of completing documents online via DocuSign is simple and can be done right from your phone, tablet, or personal computer. You will receive an email directly from DocuSign, and you simply follow the prompts to complete your documents. For added security, you will receive a text message with a code you'll need to input to proceed. Once you have accessed the document needing your completion, the system directs you to any and all areas needing your initials, signature, and date. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us through our website, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call us at 877-499-9255. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, folks. I am America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Ornder, and I just want to remind you, we have got a Facebook page and an Instagram page, believe it or not. So if you want to click on those, go to those. All you got to do for Facebook, go to facebook.com, type in The Worry-Free Retirement at the search bar, and there you go. If you want to go to the Instagram page, that is, go to instagram.com, and it's at The Worry-Free Retirement, all one word, okay? Tony, I got a question for you. I haven't heard a lot about Tony Baloney lately. What's going on with that, man?
Well, in case people haven't heard you, I wrote a book called The Adventures of Tony Baloney and Cookie about my childhood and my real dog Cookie back then, growing up in the 60s in Lexington. But pretty excited about it, Aaron. Again, as we record this show on January 17th, 2023, we are in the process of working with an animation company on a cartoon. We've gotten some traction. We've got a website, actually, TonyBaloneyandCookie.com, if you'd like to order the book or learn more about the history and its evolution. And we've got a lot of great reviews on there, TonyBaloneyandCookie.com. Baloney, by the way, is B-A-L-O-N-Y, not E-Y. B-A-L-O-N-Y. Anyway, and then at the very end of this show, people need to stay tuned because we had one of my clients play around with the Tony Baloney theme song.
Oh, we got a theme song now.
Oh, yeah. So you'll be hearing that in a minute. All right, we got to keep moving, though. We'll play that theme song on the close. It's pretty cool. So if you're just now joining us, it's not a matter of if, but when. And before we get into our final win, I think I want to cover this one-pager. So let me set the stage. We were talking about when to buy an annuity, and because annuities are so easy to sell by a lot of people who are not fiduciaries, more and more people selling annuities. What I've found is, Aaron, there's a lot of too good to be true going on out there. Everybody's hearing all the great things about annuities without understanding that with any investment, folks, as much as I love annuities, there are pros and cons. So this is hilarious. Again, if you want to watch the TV show, I'll be covering this in detail. So a gentleman came to me and he said, Tony, I won't name the name of this advisor or insurance agent. It's not really an advisor. They're an insurance agent. They gave me this, and it's a bonus annuity. And they laid out for me what we ought to do here. And there's a couple things that jumped out at me. The things they left off, number one, they never mentioned the actual surrender charges, which are huge with this product. A surrender charge, folks, means if you bail out of a contract within a certain amount of time, you lose a large portion of what's in there. And it could be 7%, 8%, 10%. They could be big numbers. Never mentioned that. Okay, that's a huge thing. As a fiduciary, we always disclose to people the terms of the contracts and surrender charges. Make sure, folks, if you're looking, especially if you're talking to an annuity peddler that throws something like this out in front of you, make sure you understand surrender charges, okay? The next thing, this product, we represent this company, which, by the way, I won't name the company, but their service right now is horrific. Gosh, Mandy was on the line the other day.
That's a heavy word, horrific.
Oh, no, it's awful.
Heavy.
She was on the line with this same company they're proposing to do business with for an hour and 20 minutes on hold. Then got cut off at the end. It was.
That's a lot of time wasted to be cut off.
Well, fortunately, Mandy's kind of learned to work while she's on. I call it ignore. They call it hold. I call it ignore. Okay. Then the second thing is this product has a bonus of 20%, which is fine. But there's no mention in here that if you get out of the contract early, not only will you have surrender charges, you lose the whole bonus.
You lose the whole bonus.
Everything. The whole 20%.
My God.
Oh, it gets worse. Then finally, and bless his heart, I guess whoever put this together must not understand indexed annuities. It says on here that they call it profit. It says your profit is 60% of participation rate, which that's not even correct terminology. So folks, with an indexed annuity, what the participation rate means, what I think this agent's trying to say but doesn't understand participation rates, participation rate means the percentage that the insurance company will credit based on the stock market. Let me give you an example. So this gentleman says 60% of participation rate. That's not the correct terminology. What it should say is the participation rate is 60%. So what that means is that the participation rate on an indexed annuity is 60%. The market goes up 10%. That means you make 60% of the 10, or you would make 6%. And so basically, like I said, folks, what I'm saying is this one pager, for you to put especially a large sum of money, your life savings, tons of money you've got maybe at the bank, to invest in something like this, number one, is not only it's just not even good factual information to go by, but some of the main points you need to be aware of, surrender charges and the loss of bonus under certain circumstances aren't even on there. So here's what I would recommend you do. If you want to learn the truth about annuities, why don't you order my booklet called Annuities Made Easy? I've been doing these things for years. I know these products very well. You can get a copy, free copy, and download at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Just hit the download section, or we'll send you a hard copy if you like. Absolutely free. Just give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. All right, got to take a quick break here. When we come back, number 8 of It's Not a Matter of If But When. This is, I think, Aaron's favorite one. When to admit you're not going to live forever. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Welcome to our Employee Spotlight, and today's feature will be Miss Heather Hughes, our fiduciary in the Bowling Green office. First of all, Heather, thank you for making the drive with JJ up to our Louisville studios today from Bowling Green.
Glad to do it today.
So briefly, tell the audience a little bit about how you got started at Tony Walker Financial, how long you've been with us, and your role there from doing an income planning specialist role all the way down to the fiduciary.
Oh, sure. Well, joined the firm back in 2006. Hard to believe it's been that long. Started off just helping you kind of develop game plans on the earliest levels. Since then, we went from Excel spreadsheets and building out our own proprietary.
Accordion. Remember the big accordion?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Long sheets of paper. And then developing that proprietary software that we've come to love so much, and it's so helpful for clients. Since then, as I learned the business, it really became a passion of mine, and ended up becoming a fiduciary just like you.
And you're that person at the office that's there full-time, which is so helpful to us, because many times I'm with clients quite a bit, but tell people the, surprise they have when we respond so quickly to their questions and the ability to call up the game plan and react to their needs as they change in retirement.
Sure. That's one of the benefits, I think, of having me in the office full time. I know you're meeting with a lot of clients up here in Louisville. When you're in a meeting, you're, of course, not readily available. They can usually reach me with just a quick phone call. So if they have any questions, especially existing clients, I'm happy to answer those for them, pull up their game plan. If there are any changes we need to make, we're happy to do that. Or if they're even needing to make some decisions, I can help with that.
Well, Heather, obviously I appreciate your work so much at Tony Walker Financial. You've been a great asset, and we look forward to helping many more savers. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Tony.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Tony Walker in the Worry-Free Retirement, and we're covering the last win in when to make decisions in retirement planning, and it's when to admit you're not going to live forever. So, Aaron, you know me, I love reading the Bible. What do you think there's a verse in Scripture that would probably come to my mind that would reflect this whole notion of not if but when? Do you have one that comes to mind? The Bible addresses this, obviously.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
I don't know. I think it's in Proverbs. It talks about, be watchful on the wall because you never know when the not the king, but I think you never know when the king will return. Something like that. Yeah. I don't know.
Nice execution.
You're doing terrific.
I don't even know right offhand. Probably some Bible scholar could quote it real quick, but I love what the Bible says about from dust ye came. And dust, not you might return or you may return, it says shall.
You're going.
Yeah, shall in legal terms means it is going to happen. So what's amazed me over the years, again, folks, I've been doing this nearly 40 years, is when people get into retirement planning. I mean, let's face it, most of the people we work with, if you came to one of our client dinners, are over the age of 65. We've got a field full of people at that age. We've got over 3,000 clients. Easily half of them are over 65. So to get to that stage in life and not admit that you will die, that you shall return to dust, makes no sense. And what I've found, Aaron, is it becomes liberating. It's not a bad thing. It becomes liberating when people honestly and openly, especially talking with somebody like me, admit they're going to die. Because it's that moment. I think it creates some urgency when you admit that, hey, this could be my last day on earth. When you admit this, then you can start putting some plans in motion. One of the most rewarding things we can do, Aaron, I had a 61-year-old widow. She just lost her husband. Obviously, our client just recently came into the office with 2 of her children to go over all of their assets. And you know what? I didn't think she looked familiar. She said, "Do you realize you've never met me?" And I said, "I didn't think we'd ever met." She said, "Well, years ago I saw you on TV." And she said, "I was the one that told my husband to come to you." Isn't that interesting?
Interesting.
She had been watching me. This was when we were on our former station together. Remember, I was on every Monday.
Yep.
So developed an audience there. At that time, we had a female host with us, and we had a lot of females that watched that show. And that happened a lot, where the females would tell their husbands, "You go talk to this guy. I think I can trust him." But it was very rewarding to sit down with her, meet her for the first time, share with her all the plans her husband had made, meet the kids, share with them what he had taken care of everything. And to see the relief on her face, because she knew nothing about money. She admitted that. But to know that he admitted that he wasn't going to live forever, therefore he got with somebody like Tony Walker Financial, got things in order, got things organized, got things simplified, and has this game plan. And I told her, I said, "Ma'am, because your husband has this written game plan with Tony Walker Financial, you're not going to have any worries. You're not going to have any major decisions to make. We're going to help you get all this transferred over into your name." And then I told the kids the same thing. And not if, but when your mom passes, we'll be able to do the same thing for you. And for the relief on their faces that somebody was in charge of this and knew what the heck was going on, again, it's probably the most rewarding thing I could do in this business. So if that's you right now, you might be sitting there saying, "Tony, I'm convinced that I don't have my ducks in a row. I've been putting off doing things I know I should do." Don't put it off any longer, folks. This is so easy to work with Tony Walker Financial, and it can begin with what we call our free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And here's how this works. If you want to talk to myself, Tony Walker, the owner of the company with nearly 40 years of experience in this world of finance, all you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Let's Get Started button. It's called the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. Or if you just want to call right now and say, "I want to talk to this Tony," just, again, there's no obligation. We're just going to talk for a few minutes. All you got to do is give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. And then after we talk, if it merits, if it feels like there's something I can help you with, again, we will meet for free at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it now, take action, and don't put off doing what you know you should do today any longer. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this series on It's Not a Matter of If, but When. But you remember, in the future, if you need our help, we're here, but we'll be here next week again on the Worry-Free Retirement. And Derek, let's let that theme song to Tony Baloney roll, shall we?
Tony Baloney, T-L-E-Go, Tony, T-legged, toe-legged, bow-legged, Tony, Tony Baloney, T-L-E-Go, Tony, T-legged, toe-legged, bow-legged, Tony, Tony Baloney, T-L-E-Go, Tony, T-legged, T-legged, toe-legged, bow-legged Tony. Tony Baloney, T-L-E-Go Tony. T-legged, toe-legged, bow-legged Tony. Tony Baloney, T-L-E-Go Tony. T-legged, toe